in the 10th digit, when you were talking about the 10th digit on there, they did not use I, O, Q, U, or Z. You got that? Okay, so remember this, whenever you're looking at the 10th digit on the serial number, under the windshield there, it doesn't lie. If you look at the serial number on the door, you may get a bad year model, because I have seen, like a lot of the times what the body shop will do is the body shop will say, and I've seen them do this, they'll say, I need a door for a Dodge Durango, and if it's a purple door, that'll help me a lot. Just so happens the salvage yard sends them a purple door. Where's the VIN sticker? On the dadgum door. If it's the driver's door, the VIN sticker is well, sometimes it'll be on the jam, but it'll be on the door. On the Dodges, it was on the door, like in 2002, and we were working on this 2003 Durango that had a 2002 door that had a VIN sticker that didn't even have the right VIN on it. And it so happened that the part we needed was for a 2003, and the 2002 part wasn't the same for whatever we were doing. And whoever it was, a lot of times you'll see people open the door and they'll look at the build date, right? And you really can't tell if it's in the fall of the year. You don't know when they started building the one that was the year after that. You get me? All right, and so the smart thing to do is to go ahead and look under the glass. And remember, in 1980, they started with A. Although some of the 1980s didn't have 17-digit numbers on them. All right, 1981 is B. 1982 is C. You get me? You feel me here? Come on. All right, they did not use I, O, Q, U, or C, or Z rather. Say that with me. They did not use I, O, Q, U, or Z. They did not use I, O, Q, U, or Z. Now we'll have a pop test on the firing orders of all the engines in the fleet out here. How about that? No, I was kidding. But I, O, Q, U, or Z. Remember that? Say I, O, Q, U, or Z.
I, O, Q, U, or Z.
I, O, Q, U, or Z. They did not use I, O, Q, U, or Z. And this is pertinent information even today. They went from 1980 to 2000 going through the alphabet. In 2001, they switched to numbers. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. And then in 2010, they went back to the alphabet. What year are we in right now?
2006.
We're over halfway through the alphabet again. Well, if you can't look at a 2010 and a 1980 model, both of them having an A, and tell the difference, you've got bigger issues than what your model car is you got. So remember, A, and the way I have the little flags in there, F is 85, because 5 starts with an F, right? V is 97, because a V looks like a sideways 7. P is 93, because P and 3 rhyme. Now, when you jump up into the other one, A would be 2010, B's 2011, C's 2012. You got me? Memorize that. It's not that hard to memorize. They did not use I, O, Q, U, or Z, because why? I looks like a 1, O looks like a 0, Q looks like a 0. U and a V, when you write them, look very similar in some people's handwriting. And then Z looks like a 2. You call out I, O, Q, U, and Z. All right, now then, let's look at some best practices here when we're working on the cars. We're going to go ahead. There's not a whole lot of slides here. This is not going to last all day. I will tell you that one time I did go out to Fort Worth, Texas, and I did a PowerPoint presentation that was an all-day long PowerPoint presentation on Power Stroke diesels with some bunch of mechanics out there, and it was 480 PowerPoint slides, and I walked around all day, That'd wear you out. Okay, now, best practices, some solid rules of the trade, and I've got some other rules I'm going to shoehorn in here at the same time. Try not to borrow any tool more than once. This is when you're finally working in the shop out here, and you've got your toolbox, and Joe's got his toolbox, and everybody's got their own toolbox. Try not to borrow any tool more than once. If you have to borrow it more than once, you need one. You know what I mean? I'm talking about, don't always count on somebody else to supply your tool. Because a lot of the tools aren't that expensive. The little fuel line disconnect tools, that's chump change. I heard somebody up there. Okay. Don't start screwing an important bolt or plug into its hole and walk away thinking you'll remember to tighten it later. We're doing an oil change, right? Hey Joe, can you come over here and give me a hand with this? Sure. You go over there. Then you come back, let's see, where was that? Oh yeah, I got to pour the oil in it. And you didn't tighten this all the way. Also, when you take the oil filter off, make sure you know where that gasket is. You done an oil change? You done an oil change? You ever screw the oil filter off and when you look at it, the gasket wasn't there, or if you didn't look at it and you screw the other one back under there in a dark place, suddenly the other gasket's still up there and you've double gasketed and you cranking it up and it moves and 4 quarts of oil gets gone before you can shut it off. You know, don't go there. What you do is you make sure that you know where that thing is. It's real simple. You look at the filter, is the gasket here? If it's not, I need to know where it is. If it's not there and it's not up there, then it must have fell off. And as long as you just see a smooth place up here for the gasket and seal, you're okay with that. So you screw that on there. But spark plugs. You know the spark plugs that go down in the hole? You know, a lot of them, you know, screwed into the hole. Tons of them now go down in the hole. How do you get that spark plug down in there? You know what I mean? If you don't have a socket with a rubber in it that will hold that spark plug, how do you get it down in that hole? How do you do it? You done it before? How'd you think? What's a good way to go down in there? Yes, sir?
I use this fuel line. Get
That's a
started.
smooth way to do it. Put a piece of fuel line, slide it over there so that it grips the plug. Start it and screw it. You're not going to cross thread it with a piece of rubber hose stuck on there. Screw it as far as you can down in there. And then you put your socket on it and you put about 15 foot-pounds of torque on it. That's according to the Delco people. They say, and you know, slightly different here, there, and yonder. But if you put about 12, 15 foot-pounds of torque on it, you're squishing the washer, you're making good contact with the head. The heat will be conducted out of the plug and it'll run nice and cool. If you don't tighten it up, it's going to be dancing around in there and it's going to get really, really hot. And it may do even something really hateful like blowing out of the hole and then somebody's way off over here and they're hearing something that sounds like a machine gun, pop, 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 and all that kind of stuff. I'll call them back. All right, so don't ever walk away from something. If you've got your spark plug and you're putting it in there and you hadn't tightened it, and somebody calls you, now if they're in a bind and you've got to rush over there, that's something else. But just leave your socket on the darn thing so that when you come back, there it is. You know, make a rule here. Don't leave any vehicle with a dry crankcase or bad brakes without disabling the vehicle so it can't be started and driven. You know, if you've tinkered with the brakes or done something so that somebody's not going to be able to stop it or whatever, and you just walk away and it looks like a normal car sitting there that somebody could drive, and I've actually even, tell you what happened one time. There was a guy that worked on, one of the college guys did a worksheet that required him to look at the stoplight switch on this Bronco of ours, and you know about this. And what happened was he took the stoplight switch loose, which means you got to pull a pin out, and the brake pedal's just swinging, disconnected. All right, so it came time to go, and he just says, "Oh, it's time to go." And he left the stoplight switch swinging from the wires, the brake pedal swinging, walked away. The key was in the truck. Then there was an old Honda. It was all scratched up and a piece of junk, but it still belonged to somebody on this other lift over there. And one of the dual enrollment students says, "Hey, I want to move that Bronco." And I looked over there at it, and I didn't know this other student had taken the brake pedal because he didn't tell anybody. You know, I mean, I guess I should have gone over there and checked it out. But you know, you feel like, well, somebody drove it in, somebody can drive it out. Not only did he crank it up and couldn't and had no brakes, he should have hit the brake to feel, you know, he should have hit. Come on, Joe. He should have hit the brake to see if what was going on, but he didn't. And because of the fact that he didn't know what was going on, when he hit the brake and it was swinging, and the car, he had already, for some strange reason, instead of putting it in reverse, he had put it in drive. He went forward, and he couldn't stop it, and he knocked the Honda off the lift. You know, and it didn't really hurt the Honda very much, but it hurt the Bronco more than it did the Honda. But it was a situation where somebody left it where it should not have been driven, and they didn't put a sign on it, they didn't do anything. He should have basically put the key and put something on it and put it in there, or done something to keep people from driving. Or if you've drained the oil out of it, the crankcase is dry, and you've got everything else together, but you hadn't poured the oil in it for whatever reason. If you've got it sitting there and somebody starts it up with no oil in it, then somebody spent $5,000, $6,000, $7,000. Be really, 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 really careful about that. Think ahead. That's what I'm trying to get you to do here. When parking a customer's vehicle outside, don't leave the windows down even if the weather is clear. The same guy that took the brake pedal loose parked our little 2006 Sonata out there one day, took the key home with him, left the windows down. He put the key in his pocket, left the windows down, and it rained, and we couldn't even roll the windows up. Couldn't move the car, couldn't roll the windows up. You know what I mean? Now, that was one of the trainer cars, and basically I just pulled it in here and opened both doors and ran the fans through it for a day and a night, and it dried everything out, you know, wasn't the end of the world. But with a customer's car, whenever you're in doubt, windows up, key out. If you park it outside, the key needs to be in my office, and the windows need to be up. If you've got it in the shop, the key needs to be in the ignition, and if possible, the driver's window needs to be down, so we don't lock ourselves out of it, okay? How many times, this one guy that was working back there in the back of the shop at the Ford place, he says, I've locked myself out of this Crown Victoria. You know, and it was an older Crown Victoria. He goes, how can we get in it? I don't know, and I saw them buttons on the door. And in those days, nowadays they got it where if you put the wrong code in 7 times, it'll, you know, stop taking code. I just went, I said, well, I don't know, I thought about getting it like that. He pushed one more button, and it went boom. He goes, hey, all right. So we just guessed the code, you know. Nowadays, like I say, if you put the wrong code in 7 times, you don't get in for, you know, it times out for a while. Okay, come on. Did I see my trigger? When doing an oil change along with another service operation, always complete one operation before beginning the other. The reason I'm saying this, there was a guy that was changing the oil on one of our cars back here, and it had a tire rotation and balance, and you guys are going to get a chance to do that, and it also had an oil change. He goes up with it, he drains the oil, he puts the drain plug back in, tightens it up, screws the filter back on, tightens it up really good, lowers the vehicle halfway down, starts on his tire balance. He was actually on the front heel lift when he did this. He got through with his, you know, rotating and balancing the tire and put it all back together, even torqued the lug. And he set it down, and he was getting ready to start it up and drive it out of the shop. And I said, stop. He said, huh? I said, look, your oil is still sitting right over there, man. You never poured the oil in the car. See what I'm saying? I mean, so if you're doing an oil change and a tire rotate, go ahead and finish the oil change first before you ever even break a lug nut loose. Because it's like, well, I can let it down halfway and go ahead and do a tire rotation. You get in trouble like that. Don't ever do that. Just always complete one before you begin the other one. All right? Yeah, man. Oh, and here's another little thing I'm shoehorning in there. This is another thing. Well, it may be later on the slide, but being a really good mechanic doesn't give you a license to be a jerk. You ever seen somebody that knew their business really well, and they felt like, you know, they were smarter than everybody else, and they acted like a jerk? You know what I'm saying? You know, there's no point in that. You know, you can basically help other people and share your knowledge with them and all that. But what we got here is one of those, the attitude thing, right? Because no matter how much you think you know, there's always people that know more. You know, there's a heck of a lot of stuff that I don't know that I know that other people do know. And that's why sometimes whenever we're fighting with something, we go on Identifix. Perfect example, this little Toyota that I'm driving out here that belongs to my son Lou. It had a PO 125 code. Now, what's a PO 125 code mean? It needs a thermostat usually. Engine's running too cold, right? Everybody up there in Augusta was saying this thing needs a thermostat, needs a thermostat. They replaced one thermostat after another. And initially I was telling him, well, I've never seen anything on that with a thermostat. But I went in Identifix and I looked it up, and I found out that on Toyotas, that means the oxygen sensor never woke up. If the oxygen sensor never woke up, it couldn't go into closed loop. It throws a PO 125, which has nothing to do with the thermostat. But on every other car I've ever seen, you see what I'm saying? There's always something you don't know that you can learn. So always have that idea. I've had people come in here that thought they knew everything there was to know. I mean, somebody in their early 20s that, you know, felt like they'd seen everything there was to see, and nobody could teach them anything they didn't know. You know? All right. Don't plunder in the console or the glove box of a customer's car just to see what's in there. Okay. Now, occasionally we'd have a situation where the console has to be removed in order to get to the shift cable or something in one like this. And in that case, you get a box or something, and you very carefully set all of their stuff in the box. And if you put it back in there, make sure you put everything back in there like it's supposed to be, only neater than it was. All right, but I have actually had to do that on my Grand Cherokees and stuff when I was working on them. I had to open the console. Oh my gosh, this thing's piled all the way up with all kinds of junk. So I set this stuff all over to the side, and then I take the screws out the bottom of the console, pull it out, put it all back in, and I very carefully transfer all their stuff back in there. You know, you don't have to read their mail and all this kind of junk and see their lottery numbers and that kind of thing. The glove box sometimes has to be opened and taken down so you can work in there behind that. And that's really difficult to put all of the glove box material back in there exactly like it was because they dropped it in there a piece at a time. You know, they just do the best you can putting that back. But some people will open the glove box just to see what's there. You know, don't plunder in somebody else's stuff, right? And you're liable to see, when you're working on stuff, you're liable to see guns, shotguns, all kinds of stuff in there because a lot of people have all of that stuff around. All right, don't take any of their ashtray coins or their chewing gum or anything else you think they won't notice. Now, I will tell you this, there's been times when I've been tempted, I'd see a 16 pack of gum. I'd say, man, I could usually chew me some of that. But it seemed like every time I sat down in there, there was either only 2 pieces left or there was only 1 piece missing. And they would recognize, but I didn't ever take any of it. It's just a temptation, you know. I'd really like to have a piece of chewing gum and here's some right here. But, you know, it's really not right. I mean, that's not any different from taking quarters out of their change tray. And I've known of people that were caught taking the quarters, they lay a trap for them. A couple of people complained, said, whenever I brought my car in here, quarters and change have gone missing out of the chewing. Principle of the thing, you know. They lay a trap for the guy, you know, paint some around the side or something, see if he takes them, make him empty his pockets when nobody else becomes in their car, and bang, you're fired, get out, you know, this kind of stuff. Watch, I've seen that happen. People like that, more than once. Or people that were just taking quarters and stuff out of somebody's car. Right? Don't change the radio station. Got it? Turn the radio off if you don't like what's playing. Really, you need to be focusing on what you're doing anyway. But if you change their radio station and somebody gets back in their car and the radio station they had on some easy listening classical stuff and you've got it on a boom, 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 you know, or some junk you wanted to listen to, customers don't like that, okay? Because it's been, and when I got in one, if there was any way I could safely drive it without moving the seat and the steering wheel and the mirrors, I drove it like that. And then I would clean the steering wheel real good, even if it was dirty when it came in there. And when they got in there, they didn't have to set the mirrors, they didn't have to set the radio station, they didn't have to do nothing. It was just like they wanted it to be. And that's a little bit of a happy customer deal. 343, let me see who this is. This is Richard. Hey, Casey. Uh-huh. I would not buy a Cadillac, with all due respect. You don't want that. Yep. 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 Yeah, and there's all kinds of other issues too, just don't go there. I mean, I'm telling you, as a friend, I'm telling you. Yeah. Yeah, you're better off, believe me. So, yeah, stay the heck with it. Yeah, I know. Yeah, I know, but he had never had to work on one to see the problem. He had one. All right, bye. All right, now then, I'm not trashing Cadillacs, but the thing about it is, I don't know what your model Cadillacs you're looking at, but you can get in some deep kimchi buying a Cadillac, particularly if it's higher mileage. Okay, when replacing something like a water pump, glue the gasket to the pump instead of the mating surface. It makes things easier for the next guy. You know what I'm saying? You ever pull a water pump off and somebody had glued the gasket to the timing cover and you just scrape and scrape and scrape and it's really annoying and aggravating and it's a pain. And if you've got any little imperfection there, when you put it back on, it's going to leak. You're going to pull it back off again. If you glue it to whatever part comes off, it's fairly easy to clean that. I mean, shoot, you can walk to the wire wheel. Or if you're going to replace a water pump, it's going to be thrown on the bench anyway. You're going to put a new one on it. Just always remember to do that if you can. And if you can use something to make the gasket stick that's sort of tacky but doesn't, you know, like the transmission assembly lube, that old tacky greasy stuff. I like to use something like that. The Gorilla Snot, that's the yellow or the black 3M weather strip adhesive, is, you know, really good for holding gaskets, but it is also a pain to scrape that darn stuff back off there. And if you don't use it right, you'll make a leak with that stuff because it'll make a bump that will cause the gasket not to seal right. So I like to use the mushy stuff to hold the gasket in place. Whenever possible, I would put it together without even using anything to hold the gasket in place. If both the surfaces are clean, you're better off anyway. I always respect the next technician and work to make things easier for him or her. The next technician is you. Okay? You got that? All right, now then, what I'm going to do here, oh yeah, don't dress like a slob if you want to be considered a professional. Right? That make sense? I sent a guy to an interview, and let me tell you how not to go to an interview. I sent a guy to an interview, And this, he was gonna get paid some pretty good money getting this job. And he had, his hair was way too long, and he was dressed like a slob, and he brought his girlfriend with him to the interview. How many of you know that you don't bring your buddy or your girlfriend or whoever else with you when you go to a job interview? You know what I mean? That's just, you go by yourself, you present yourself, you know, even if you've got long hair, pull it back or something. Comb it, make it look nice, don't have it hanging in your eyes, you know what I'm saying? You know, this guy was a good mechanic. But, you know, the first thing you're gonna hear, you know, is, well, if I hire you, you're gonna have to put your shirt tail in, you need to get your hair cut. You know, because I don't like people in here looking like me. Okay. Obviously, if you're a girl, you can have long hair and they don't mind, you know. So, all right, so what we got here, now I'm gonna show you guys also how Electude works. And so you'll know something, you won't be completely lost. And let me go to internet here. And what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna go ahead and walk you guys through the safety thing so you'll already know it when you get there. We don't typically spend this much time in class, even for dual enrollment, but on the first day, you know, it's sort of like that. All right, now here's where we go in. This is what it looks like. You guys are probably, you guys are already in there. I gotta get your vouchers from the bookstore, and you're also we gotta get you a book. You know, the fundamentals people are gonna be doing most of your work out of that book. And yes, and I know that we'll no longer receive Chrome updates and all that. You bring your truck today? Can't drive your truck today?
I ain't got a brakes for it.
No brakes for it. Tell them about your truck while I'm doing this.
I got a 77 Ford F-150, and we bought it probably a year ago anyways. It ran and all that, but you could tell it was, you know, it had no oil pressure in it, and just didn't run very good, so we yanked the motor out of it and rebuilt it, just put it back in yesterday, running pretty good.
Yep. Y'all worked on that thing off and on for a while, didn't you?
Yeah.
All right. What you guys are going to be looking at here, I built this module right here. You see that module right there? This is where you're going to go for your modules. Simple tool basics. This is your safety stuff. All right. Except I didn't put that in there like that. Let's see. Where did I put that? Let me see where that is. Let me have to go find that module and drag it. Oh, there's safety orientation right there. Excuse me. Now, when you get into a module, we're going to start the module. All right. Now, this is just going to make it easier for you to. You still need to go through this on your own Electude thing, because that it actually scores you on that. But if I take you through this, I can sort of embellish a little bit. Hey, y'all ready for me?
Hey, sir, Rick.
You doing all right?
We're fine. How are you?
Pretty good.
That young man looking for AC, so I come check that man from.
Oh yeah, if he goes around the corner, he'll find it over there.
I'll just wait until you got through.
No problem. I know that guy from somewhere, but I don't remember where. That guy that's out there talking. But anyway, watch this little video right here. And this is what Electude looks like. And I wanted to kind of show you that. There's not a heck of a lot in here, but I'm gonna go ahead and stop this right now.